In the center of the verdant valley, encircled by thick forests that seemed to go on forever, lay the sleepy little town of Larkswood. In this small, intimate community where everyone knew one another, people went about their everyday lives at a slow pace. This peace was disturbed when something gruesome was found in the heart of the Larkswood forest. It all started with the abrupt absence of Daniel Petrova, a software engineer who had just quit to work shifts in the far-off city of Rotherdale. The name has been changed for privacy reasons. Daniel's acquaintances were perplexed by his new job, which required him to travel for up to 6 months at a time. How could a man choose such a distant, demanding job over one that was secure and comfortable? When Sophia Petrova, Daniel's wife, reported him missing, she appeared upset. The people in the town came together to support and commiserate with her. But when local forester Harold Gunther discovered Daniel's body buried far into the forest, things took a terrible turn. The community was rocked by the revelation. Harold informed the authorities of his discovery right away, and they opened a thorough investigation. After a thorough investigation, the scene appeared to have been the victim of foul play. Harold was the first suspect in this confusing case. Near Harold's cabin, the police discovered some of Daniel's possessions, items that looked suspicious and out of place. Harold was promptly blamed by Sophia, who said that he had always been a bit of a recluse and had an odd fascination with the forest. Already unsettled, the town started to look askance at Harold, even though he had a reputation as a harmless, if eccentric, forester. Although he angrily denied being involved, the evidence appeared to be mounting against him. Harold's innocence was not entirely established by the police during their protracted investigation. It was a perplexing scenario. The more they learned about Daniel's life, the more questions seemed to come up. Why did he accept the new position? Why was he staying in Rotherdale for so long? As the weeks went by, security camera footage from a nearby gas station proved to be an unexpected source of information. In the surveillance footage from the night Daniel vanished, an observant officer noticed something strange. Late one night, Sophia was seen driving the SUV belonging to the Petrova family into the forest. After parking there for a few hours, the car departed at 3:39 a.m. This finding completely changed the course of the investigation. Sophia was brought in by the police to be questioned, and as the evidence grew, her story started to fall apart. Although Sophia acknowledged that she had driven into the forest that evening, her justification lacked credibility. She said that because of Daniel's unpredictable behavior, she had searched for him. The police discovered a startling truth as they investigated further. It had been a double life for Daniel. He had another family in Rotherdale, a mistress named Elena, and her 2 small children. When Sophia saw odd charges on their credit card statements and discrepancies in Daniel's stories, she became suspicious. She had reached her breaking point when she learned of his hidden life. Sophia, furious and feeling deceived, had devised a scheme to get rid of Daniel and accuse Harold of the crime. She carefully arranged some of Daniel's possessions next to Harold's cabin, in an attempt to disassociate herself from the situation. Her plan, however, had not taken into consideration the investigation's thoroughness or the surprising evidence from the gas station camera. Now that the truth was known, the entire focus changed. After being taken into custody, Sophia was accused of killing her husband. The community was left in shock, unable to accept the fact that one of their own had carried out such a horrible deed. Harold was cleared, but his reputation was permanently damaged by the suspicion he had to deal with. The people of Larkswood prepared themselves for the inevitable revelations as the trial approached. The dark secrets that had come to light had permanently altered the once peaceful town, and word of Daniel Petrova's double life and his untimely death was discussed in whispers and in hushed conversations throughout the valley. Sitting in the interrogation room, Sophia Petrova's once calm demeanor had broken. She was a devoted wife and mother to her two daughters, Maria and Anya, and she had always exuded elegance and poise. But years of unrest had been simmering beneath the surface. Sophia Ivanova gave birth to Sophia in a little town close to Larkswood. Daniel had won her over with his charm and ambition when they first met in college. Daniel's career as a programmer was promising, and he climbed the corporate ladder, leading to their young marriage and family. In contrast, Sophia had dedicated her life to her family, delaying her professional goals in order to care for their daughters. Before Daniel's unexpected job change, everything seemed ideal. Daniel had initially justified the shift work in Rotherdale as a necessary step toward increased opportunities and better compensation. Sophia, who was always encouraging, initially didn't doubt him. However, as the months went by, she continued to feel uneasy about something. The cryptic texts, the late-night phone calls, and the inexplicable absences all alluded to a secret reality. When she found hotel receipts from Rotherdale and a credit card statement with charges from toy and children's clothing stores, her worst fears were realized. Her private investigator soon discovered Daniel's double life after she hired him. He lived in Rotherdale with another family, his mistress, Elena Mendez, a stunningly attractive nurse, and their two small children, Peter and Ava. It was a devastating revelation. A whirlwind of feelings tore through Sophia. Betrayal, rage, humiliation. Daniel apologized and promised to stop the affair, but she didn't believe them. She believed that their marriage had become a farce and that her sacrifices had been in vain. In this state of emotional turmoil, she started to plan her retaliation. Formerly well-liked in Larkswood, Daniel Petrova was now seen as a man who had lived a deceitful life. He had appeared to be a model citizen to the outside world, intelligent, diligent, and compassionate. But his deceit was now known to those closest to him. He had created an alternate reality where he was a devoted partner and father, and his relationship with Elena had been more than just a fling. He had truly cared for her and their children. Elena Mendez, a woman entangled in this tragic story, was unaware of Daniel's previous life until she was contacted by the police as part of their investigation. As she discovered the truth about the man she loved, her entire world fell apart. She had trusted and believed in Daniel, and now she was having to deal with the truth about his passing and the lies that had kept their relationship going. As the trial date drew near, Larkswood residents were engulfed in a whirlwind of rumors and conjecture. Sophia's meticulously crafted persona had crumbled, with her two daughters bearing the brunt of the controversy. Anya, the younger, was well known for her artistic abilities and free spirit, while Maria, the older, had always been a responsible and scholarly young woman. Their lives had been permanently changed by their father's actions and their mother's desperate decisions, and both girls found themselves thrust into an unwanted spotlight. The prosecution carefully assembled its case by putting Sophia's damaging evidence in front of the public. Premeditation and cold calculation were evident in the security footage from the gas station, the planted belongings near Harold's cabin, and the private investigator's report. The overwhelming evidence was too much for Sophia's defense lawyer to ignore, as she tried to paint Sophia as a woman driven insane by her husband's betrayal. The forester who had been falsely accused, Harold Gunther, testified about how he had found Daniel's body. Although he spoke steadily, the strain the experience had taken on him was evident in his eyes. His testimony revealed the extent to which Sophia had gone in order to frame an innocent man, and the suspicion and isolation he had experienced had left him with deep scars. The trial was a spectacle that attracted national and international media attention. Journalists descended upon Larkswood, keen to document every development in the case. Every day, a large number of townspeople crowded into the courtroom to watch the drama play out. As the community dealt with the sinister undercurrents that had lurked beneath their ostensibly idyllic existence, each revelation was met with gasps and whispers. The defense was left with the difficult task of preserving Sophia's freedom and reputation after the prosecution withdrew its case. Jonathan Keene, her seasoned litigator, tried to elicit compassion and empathy from the jury. He highlighted the psychological effects of learning about her husband's double life, as well as Sophia's emotional turmoil and sense of betrayal. However, the overwhelming weight of the evidence made the jury's verdict seem increasingly certain. Before the decision was made, Sophia took some time to think back on her decisions and the journey that had brought her to this point. Her actions were motivated by a desperate attempt to take back control of her life, but they also destroyed the foundation of her family's existence. As the jury returned to deliver their verdict and close this tragic chapter, the courtroom fell silent. The jury filed back in, their expressions solemn, and the courtroom fell into a tense silence. With her hands clenched in her lap, Sophia Petrova sat rigidly in her chair. Jonathan Keene, her lawyer, gave her a comforting nod, but his expression betrayed the uncertainty in the room. The residents of Larkswood leaned forward, anticipating the decision that would determine Sophia's fate. The jury foreman was addressed by the judge, a serious and severe man. Has the jury reached a verdict? With a tired expression on his face, the middle-aged foreman got up and cleared his throat. We have, Your Honor. With a steady voice, he unfolded a piece of paper and started reading. In the case of the state versus Sophia Petrova, on the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. There was a collective gasp in the courtroom, and then there were whispers and murmurs and exclamations. Sophia's eyes were wide with shock, but her face remained expressionless. A reassuring hand rested on her shoulder, but Keene's expression was glum. With a loud crack, the judge gavelled and called for orders. I appreciate your service, jury. Tomorrow, the court will meet again to discuss sentencing. As Sophia was led away in handcuffs, the weight of the decision began to weigh on her. Her steps faltered a little. Reporters scurried outside the courthouse, constantly flashing their cameras as they tried to capture the moment. The shocking verdict of the trial now dominated the conversations among the townspeople as they scattered off. The people of Larkswood had difficulty comprehending what had happened in the days preceding the sentencing. The formerly calm town had become well known across the country, its peaceful streets and amiable faces now connected to tragedy and treachery. The quiet, dark windows and closed doors of the Petrova family home served as a sobering reminder of the lives that had been turned upside down. Sophia's daughters, Maria and Anya, had no idea what lay ahead. Their maternal grandparents had taken them in and tried their best to protect them from the curious onlookers and incessant questions. For Anya's sake, Maria, always the tough one, tried to keep things somewhat normal. But her young shoulders bore a heavy weight. The scandal in their family. Daniel's mistress, Elena Mendez, was struggling with her own loss and uncertainty. She had fallen in love with Daniel and trusted the life they had created, only to find out later that it had been a lie. Little comfort could be found in the news of Sophia's conviction. It served as a sharp reminder of the dishonesty that had poisoned their relationship. Once again, the courtroom was packed on the day of the sentencing. Sophia looked at the judge, her features visibly haggard and a mix of resignation and defiance. In his final appeal for mercy, Jonathan Keene mentioned her emotional turmoil, as well as the unique circumstances that had led her to act in such a desperate manner. The judge, his expression enigmatic, listened intently. Once Keene was done, the judge turned to face Sophia. Mrs. Petrova, you acted with premeditation and calculation, motivated by a strong sense of anger and betrayal. Despite my empathy for your suffering, Taking another person's life cannot be justified by the law. Your actions have harmed Mr. Gunther, this community, and your family irreversibly. I thus sentence you to life in prison, without the chance of release." For a moment, Sophia closed her eyes and let a single tear fall down her cheek. She had not anticipated a harsher sentence than the one she received. She took one last look around the courtroom as she was being escorted away, observing the faces of people she had once thought of as neighbors and friends. Her life ended as she had known it. Over the next few months, Larkswood gradually recovered. The townspeople went back to their daily routines as the media attention subsided, but the Petrova case remained a shadow in their lives. Despite being cleared, Harold Gunther took comfort in his alone time, spent working in the forest, where the trees provided a haven from the murmurs and sideways looks. Maria and Anya persevered in reconstructing their lives, with the backing of their grandparents and the handful of unwavering friends. They were determined to overcome the legacy of their parents' decisions and found strength in one another. Elena Mendez left Rotherdale in search of a new beginning, free from the burden of her past. Sophia found prison life to be an oppressive and relentless reality. She devoted her days to contemplating her deeds and the sequence of events that brought her to that point. Her only solace came from the letters her daughters sent her, a shaky remnant of the world she had lost. The peaceful surroundings and tight-knit community of Larkswood were irreversibly altered. Daniel Petrova's double life and the terrible fallout from it served as a lesson in the darkness that can exist beneath the surface of even the most perfect lives. And the memories of those occasions gradually vanished as the years and seasons went by, leaving only the echoes of a moment when the sleepy town had been rocked to its foundation.